What you're about to hear from Senator Rand Paul is what millions of Americans have been thinking for years but were too afraid to say out loud. Ilhan Omar has finally pushed it too far, and Rand Paul just dropped the kind of truth that cuts through all the political noise in Washington. You need to see this. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you believe in standing up for America.
Send her anywhere. I'm willing to contribute to buy her a ticket to go visit Somalia, and I think she could look and maybe learn a little bit about the disaster that is Somalia, that has no capitalism, has no God-given rights guaranteed in a constitution, and has about 7 different tribes that have been fighting each other for the last 40 years. And then maybe after she's visited
Ilhan Omar has finally gone too far, and Senator Rand Paul just said what millions of Americans have been thinking. In an epic moment that's shaking Washington, Paul calls her out for her ungrateful attitude toward the very country that gave her everything. Folks, this isn't just another political spat. This is a wake-up call. She must leave now.
I'm in a town where we have a lot of people who are refugees who have come, some from Somalia, some from Bosnia. I've never heard one of them say that America's a terrible place or be unappreciative of our country. Most of them are thankful. I've met people who've come here from behind the Iron Curtain that got away from communism. They're some of the best Americans we have because they really appreciate how great our country is. And then I hear Representative Omar say, "Oh, America's a terrible place. I thought there'd be justice and there's no justice here." It's like, well, she came here and we fed her, we clothed her, she got welfare, she got school, she got health care, and then lo and behold, she has the honor of actually winning a seat in Congress, and she says we're a terrible country. I think that's about as ungrateful as you can get. And so while I'm not saying we forcibly send her anywhere, I'm willing to contribute to buy her a ticket to go visit Somalia, and I think she could look and maybe learn a little bit about the disaster that is Somalia, that has no capitalism, has no God-given rights guaranteed in a constitution, and has about 7 different tribes that have been fighting each other for the last 40 years. And then maybe after she's visited Somalia for a while, she might come back and appreciate America more.
I just have to say that I object strenuously to your use of the word hilarious. To me, this feels a lot like your reaction to being named in one of these manifestos. Now, you're, of course, not responsible for the words of somebody writing that document. But I do think that laughing at it is a real problem because these are real families that are impacted by this violence. And I think our efforts towards talking about this have to start from a place of mutual respect, which is what I've heard from this side of the table. Now, the reason we don't have those numbers, I want those numbers as much as you do, but to say the numbers don't show something is simply not supported by the data.
Okay, and I have 38 seconds left, Ms. Mulligan, if you want to respond within that time.
The only thing I would add is that it's in the name. Terrorism, domestic terrorism, it terrorizes us. It terrorizes us in our homes. It terrorizes us in our schools. And to the points made by the other panelists, it is disproportionate to its impact on any individual life, and it's not.
You reject the idea it's something that doesn't matter or doesn't really matter?
Absolutely reject.
Okay. All right, so here's where we are. Every member now has had 5 minutes and... Okay, and Mr. Clay, so we have 2 members who have not. So I'm going to go to the 2 members who have not yet, and we'll give an opportunity for a closing thought to any member who wants before we go.
Am I next to respond, or is Mr. Meadows?
I thought Mr. Meadows was
next. Mr. Meadows, okay.
Mr. Meadows is next, then Mr. Clay, then to you, Mr. Jordan.
Ms. Owens, obviously this is a gang up on you. You know, we're giving these witnesses the ability to do a rebuttal on you, and so you know, I find it unfair, Ms. Ballou. I mean, you know, candidly, for you to show mutual respect and then you to go after Ms. Owens, it's not appropriate. So, Ms. Owens, you can have 4 minutes and 34 seconds to respond. However,
yield for a second.
I'll yield to.
Thank you. I believe, Ms. Owens, when you used the word hilarious, it was referencing the fact that no one had asked you a question. It wasn't to the subject matter of the hearing. Is that right?
That is correct.
And to have another witness insinuate something that is not accurate is just not appropriate, Mr. Chairman, for how witnesses are supposed to behave in front of this committee. I also think you didn't say it doesn't matter about the subject matter of today's hearing. You said there are other subjects that matter as well, and maybe we should spend some time on those. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and they matter much, 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 much more, and I have said that. I said that in my opening, and I will say it again, you know that white supremacy and white nationalism is ranks nowhere near the top of the issues that are facing Black America. And the reason that you are bringing them up in this room is because it is attempt to make the election all about race, as the Democrats
Not in
do.
my case, Ms. Owens. I'm sorry. Please do not characterize my motive.
Mr. Chairman, it's my time.
Yeah,
it's my time.
You've got your time, Mr. Meadows. I'll give you 3 more seconds.
Every 4 years, you bring up race, and you knew exactly what I meant when I said hilarious, and you just tried to do live what the media does all the time to Republicans, to our president, and to conservatives, which you tried to manipulate what I said to fit your narrative, okay? I was not referring to the subject matter that is hilarious. I said it's hilarious that we are sitting in this room today, and I've got 2 doctors and a missus, and nobody can give us real numbers that we can respond to so we can assess how big of a threat this is. Because you know that it is not as big of a threat as you are trying to make it out to be so that you can manipulate. And the audacity of you to bring up the Christchurch shooting manifesto and make it seem as if I laughed at people that were slaughtered by a homicidal maniac is, in my opinion, absolutely despicable. And I think that we should be above that. To try to assign reality or any meaning to a homicidal maniac writing a manifesto, which, by the way, let the record show, also stated Spyro the Dragon, the child's cartoon, as a source of inspiration. He also cited Nelson Mandela as a source of information. I don't think that Nelson Mandela has inspired mosque shootings. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong. You would rather assign meaning to a homicidal maniac than to actually address the things that I said today that are actually harming Black America. Number 1, father absence. Number 2, the education system and the illiteracy rate. Illegal immigration ranks high, abortion ranks high, white supremacy and white nationalism, if I had to make a list again of 100 things, would not be on it. This hearing, in my opinion, is a farce, and it is ironic that you're sitting here and you're having 3 Caucasian people testify and tell you what their expertise are. Do I know what my expertise are? Black in America. I've been Black in America my whole life, all 30 years, and I can tell you that you guys have done the exact same thing every 4 years ahead of an election cycle, and it needs to stop.
I'll yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. And
it's all of America's debt, not just debt held by the public, but gross debt. All of our debt will rise under President Biden's budget from $32.7 trillion at the close of this year to $51 trillion by 2033. Only in Washington, D.C., only in La La Land can you go around and say, my budget reduces the deficit and debt by $3 trillion when it really increases it by $18 trillion. $18 trillion. I've also learned a lot this week about Silicon Valley Bank. I think I spoke, Mr. President, I don't know, a week, maybe 10 days ago. Gosh, we've learned a lot in a week. One of the things that we have learned is that the failure of Silicon Valley Bank and President Biden's bailout of Silicon Valley Bank was the result of bad management by the bank officials, but also by bad supervision. I talked about a week or 2 ago about the risk that the management of SVB Bank took. But today, this is what I learned this week. I want to talk about the mistakes that were made by the federal government in supervising this bank. Fact number 1. It is a fact that in January of 2019, the Federal Reserve, which is one of the banking regulators in charge of supervising the bank, issued a warning to the bank. This is 4 years ago, over its risk management systems. 4 years ago, the Fed told Silicon Valley Bank that its system to control risk was not up to snuff. Fact number 2. Last fall, short sellers and private bank analysts said the same thing. What, 5 months ago? 6 months ago? Fact number 3. Some of my colleagues have said, you know, we didn't have sufficient
for free speech and for the truth that the media refuses to say. Now, let's break this down. Rand Paul didn't insult Ilhan Omar. He didn't use hate. He simply pointed out something obvious that's been ignored for far too long, that gratitude matters. America took Ilhan Omar in as a refugee from Somalia, a country ravaged by war, corruption, and tribal chaos. Here, she was given food, education, healthcare, and eventually the unbelievable opportunity to serve in Congress, one of the highest honors in this nation. And what does she do with that platform? She spends it tearing down the very country that gave her everything. Rand Paul said it plainly. Maybe she should visit Somalia again. Not to be exiled, but to be reminded of the difference between a free society built on God-given rights and a failed state consumed by violence. That's not hate. That's perspective. Because when you've lived in America your whole life, maybe you forget just how blessed we are. But when you've seen what it's like to live without freedom, you understand the miracle that this country truly is. I'll tell you this. Every refugee who came here from behind the Iron Curtain, from communist regimes, from failed socialist states, they don't talk about how bad America is. They talk about how incredible it is to be here. They cherish their freedom because they know what real oppression looks like. Ilhan Omar clearly doesn't. She's not a victim of America. She's a product of its generosity. And this isn't just about her. This is about a dangerous mindset that's spreading, one that teaches people to hate the very system that gives them opportunity. The left thrives on that bitterness. Every election cycle, they play the same game, pit races against each other, stir up resentment, and convince people that America is the problem instead of the solution. Candace Owens said it best when she told Congress that white supremacy isn't the top issue facing Black America. She was right. The real issues are family breakdown, failing schools, fatherlessness, and crime. But Democrats don't want to fix that because division keeps them in power. They twist her words, call her hateful, and ignore the truth she's speaking. Sound familiar? It's what they do to every conservative who refuses to follow their script. The truth is, Rand Paul and Candace Owens are saying what millions of patriots feel deep down. We're tired of watching our country get trashed by people who enjoy every benefit it provides. We're tired of being called racists or extremists just for loving America. Patriotism isn't hate, it's gratitude. And gratitude is something this generation desperately needs to relearn. Rand Paul wasn't wrong for saying what he said. He was right, brutally right. America isn't perfect, but it's still the freest, most generous, most opportunity-filled nation on earth. We've got people risking their lives to come here, while some who are already here spend their time calling it evil. That's insanity. So here's my take. If you think America is so bad, go see what it's like elsewhere. Go see what no capitalism looks like. Go see what no constitutional rights feel like. Go see what life under tribal rule or socialism brings. Then come back and tell me you don't appreciate the flag, the freedoms, and the opportunities this country gives you. That's the heart of what Rand Paul was saying. And that's why his message hit a nerve. Because it's not about sending anyone away. It's about waking people up. Gratitude builds nations. Entitlement destroys them. So let me end with this. If you still believe in this country, if you're proud of our flag, our troops, our Constitution, and everything that makes America what it is, hit that like button right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Rand Paul too harsh? Or was he just saying what we've all been thinking? And don't forget to subscribe, because we're not backing down. We're going to keep speaking the truth, no matter who it offends. This isn't about politics anymore. It's about saving the soul of America.